Okay, so this is part two of Samantha Markle's interrogatories to Meghan Markle regarding why um, she wants to be Meghan's sister and she wants public recognition. So this is a lawsuit to affirm that she can speak negatively about Meghan under the authority that she knows this woman, and she can blast her as much as she wants. So I'm going to go through these last. This is the second part of Samantha's questions. I'm going to go through this list rather quickly because I don't think a lot of this stuff really is relevant to what's going on. First, it says list every lawsuit in which you've been a party in the last 10 years. Again, this would not be relevant to whatever Samantha is trying to get out of this lawsuit, as far as I can remember. I'm going to have to go back and read exactly what she said in her complaint. But I don't think listing every lawsuit for the past 10 years has anything to do with Samantha. Have you ever provided, and that's burdensome. And she probably doesn't remember. She may not even remember every lawsuit. Have you ever provided any information to Jason Naff for him to share with the authors of Finding Freedom? Well, that's a very vague question. Any information? Who knows what any information is, and whether she provided it for him to share. More than likely it wasn't confidential information, and so he could be free to share anything he wants from talking with Meghan. So that's vague. And it doesn't seem really relevant to the case, depending on what she's trying to find. Number 3, did you discuss with anyone the idea of them participating or not participating in providing information to authors of Finding Freedom, or contact the authors of Finding Freedom? Well, that's a compound question, and I would object to that, and I wouldn't answer that. At any point of day, did you live with your siblings, half siblings, or step siblings? Who are these people she's talking about? So that's vague, compound, and also, as plaintiff, Samantha would know more than likely these answers anyway and wouldn't have to ask Meghan. She also has access to those answers. Did your relationship with Samantha Markle become estranged at any point in time? Well, I don't think Samantha and Meghan had a relationship. So this question would be vague, ambiguous. And what kind of relationship is she talking about? Please list each and every communication sent by you that pertains to the book Finding Freedom. Well, that's burdensome, unduly burdensome, broad, vague, and really would have no relevance to Samantha's complaint. Other than your email to Mr. Knopf Did you contact the authors or request that someone else contact the authors of Finding Freedom to provide other information for Finding Freedom? Did you ever contact the authors? Well, that's vague and broad and really would be of no relevance. Did you discuss talking points with Oprah Winfrey or agents, representatives, agents of Miss Winfrey? Ahead of your CBS primetime special? Well, that would be not relevant, whether or not she talked to Miss Winfrey or an agent ahead of her primetime special. That has nothing to do with Samantha, and the only thing Samantha has a complaint about is what is on the special and not personal conversations between any of the agents or other people that might be related to the special. Please state whether or not you've ever spoken out in defense of the plaintiff after seeing the public scrutiny, hatred she received from your fans. Well, this is compound, and it's saying that she received public scrutiny and hatred from fans. Well, we know Samantha has sought publicity. She has sought to put her name out in the media. She has sought interviews. So Meghan would have no idea as to what's going on with Samantha, and she would not know what's going on in Samantha's life. They have no relationship. So this is vague and ambiguous. And it's compound. One, she doesn't even know that there was any public scrutiny or hatred of Samantha because they have no relationship. So why would she know that? Please explain why you failed to produce your emails to Mr. Naff in the British court proceeding of appeals. I don't know anything about that case, so I can't say anything. Have you ever requested that any member of the royal family public relations team write stories about the plaintiff or initiate negative press about the plaintiff? That would be a no. In your motion to dismiss, you indicated, I asked my father to intervene with the plaintiff. Please state the date you actually said to your father in this regard, the date you requested this, the method of the request, the content of the request. Well, this information would be equally known by Samantha, and it doesn't need to be answered by Meghan. Samantha alleges she is the daughter of Thomas Markle, and so she has access to Thomas Markle, and she can ask Thomas Markle because he would know all of these answers. Did Mr. Knopf ever brief you or contact you? There are some errors here following this meeting with the authors of Finding Freedom to discuss what happened. This is vague and ambiguous. What meeting? When? Who was he meeting with? I mean, it's all vague, and I would not answer that question. In Jason Knopf's email to you regarding his upcoming interview with the authors of Finding Freedom, he stated, please see attached the areas Ahmed and Carolyn have asked to discuss with me. My advice is that we do not ask your friends to directly engage with them. I think it is important that we say, hand on heart, they had no access, just in case it gets into difficult territory. You replied, very helpful, thank you. Shows we've been on exactly the same page, which is good. What was your understanding of what was meant by difficult territory? Why did you want to keep the communication with the authors of Finding Freedom covert? Again, this is a compound question, so it doesn't need to be answered. It's vague and ambiguous, and probably has other problems, but the fact that it's compound is enough to make it so you don't have to answer it. Were you aware? Oh, it's also speculation. I don't think she has to answer that. Were you aware that the plaintiff was forced to seek and obtain an injunction for protection against stalking in Polk County, Florida, against one of your fans? If so, please state whether you ever reached out to the plaintiff upon discovering this injunction. Again, they have no relationship. Meghan would have no idea as to who is stalking her. It could have been one of Samantha's fans. It could have been one of Meghan's fans. It could have been one of her father's fans. Who knows? So she would have no knowledge of that. If so, please explain the reasons why you believe the plaintiff only changed her name back to Samantha Markle when you started dating Prince Harry. Well, that's speculation. She doesn't know what's in Samantha's mind, so that would be speculation. And she wouldn't have to answer that one. In your mail with Jason Naff, you state all these facts can be validated by anyone who's known Meghan since childhood or afterwards. Please list the full name, last known address, last known phone numbers, last known email address of each and every person you believe may validate the information you provided to Mr. Naff. Well, that's overly broad, burdensome, would reveal private information. Of private individuals, and would not be really relevant to this case, and would not reveal any information that would be helpful to this case. And Samantha would have access to this information herself, since she alleges she knows Meghan so well. Please list the full name, last known phone numbers, last known addresses, and last known emails of each and every person who witnessed the events or has knowledge relevant to the allegations in the plaintiff's amended complaint with respect to each individual identified, described in detail the nature and substance of the knowledge or information each such individual possesses. That's vague and ambiguous. What information is she looking for? She can't go over the whole complaint. Please list and briefly describe the plaintiff's in-person and other interactions with Meghan after 1999 as stated in your initial disclosures. So she wants to know when Samantha and Meghan interacted after 1999? Well, that would be known by Samantha, so she wouldn't have to ask Meghan that question. And so that doesn't need to be. Really explain how you lack any involvement in the writing and editing of Finding Freedom, given your email communications with Mr. Naff ahead of his meeting with the authors of Finding Freedom. Please describe each and every document which you believe supports the proposition in your initial disclosures that you had a lack of involvement in the writing and editing of Finding Freedom. Well, you can't prove a lack of involvement. How can you prove a lack of involvement? Basically, her statement that she wasn't involved would be enough. Did you invite Asila Hale to your wedding? Did you disinvite her to your first wedding? Did you invite her to your... Let me see. If you did disinvite Asila Hale to your first wedding, please state the date she was disinvited, who disinvited her, the method of disinviting, a phone call, text message, and so forth. Explain the reason or other reasons why Asila Hale was disinvited to your first wedding. Well, that's a compound question, multiple questions. And I don't think Asila Hale is involved with this in any way. So I don't know why in the world he would be asking about a person not involved in the case and things that happened to her. She would have to complain on her own. Please list the full name of each and every relative invited to attend your first wedding. For each individual listed, please also provide the date that they were invited to your first wedding and whether or not she attended your first wedding. She may not remember each and every relative that was invited. And I believe that would be irrelevant. What does that have to do with Samantha? And that's similar with the next question. List all of the people who you invited to your from your family and friends to attend your wedding to your husband Harry, and which of these people attended. Again, this has nothing to do with Samantha or this case. Who else was invited and who else attended? And so I would say both of those questions are irrelevant to this particular case. So just quickly going over these questions from Samantha. It shows why our court systems are so screwed up. They spend so much time on this junk. And there are so many cases out there who really, really have people with real complaints and spending so many years on this case, so much time, is ridiculous. But those are Samantha's questions in her interrogatory to Meghan. And I would say most of them don't need to be answered. A lot of them are irrelevant. A lot of the answers are already known to Samantha. She can find out the answers herself. And you can't publicly disclose everybody's private telephone number, their emails, and all kinds of stuff in any way. that is under specific agreements between people to keep their information private, non-disclosure agreements. So that is how I see it for this interrogatory. So what do you think? Like and subscribe. Bye.